A mí no me amenace, aquí lo espero si quiere. No acepto invasiones, no acepto misiles, no acepto asesinatos, acepto inteligencia. Vengan aquí a hablar con inteligencia y lo recibimos y hablamos de tú a tú y con cifras reales, no con mentiras. Deje de engañarse de las mafias políticas colombianas, porque nos condenaron a 700.000 muertos, a ser el país más desigual del mundo.
The capture of Nicolás Maduro has triggered a dangerous new rupture in the Americas. Now the war of words has crossed borders. Colombia's president is daring Donald Trump, and the language is no longer diplomatic, it is incendiary. After the U.S. military operation that captured Venezuela's deposed leader Nicolás Maduro, tensions have surged sharply between Washington and Bogotá. Colombian President Gustavo Petro has issued a direct warning to U.S. President Donald Trump, telling him, "Come get me, I am waiting for you." Petro said any U.S. military action against Colombia would ignite mass resistance across the countryside. He warned that bombing peasant communities would turn campesinos into thousands of guerrillas in the mountains. Petro added that arresting a president loved and respected by the people would unleash what he called the popular jaguar. In a striking escalation, Petro said he would take up arms again for the homeland, despite previously swearing never to return to violence. Petro has also lashed out at senior U.S. officials, including Senator Marco Rubio, accusing them of misunderstanding Colombia's constitution and promoting narratives driven by mafia-linked political interests. In a lengthy message, Petro warned that U.S. strikes without proper intelligence would kill children and civilians. He said any foreign invasion would force Colombians to defend sovereignty at all costs. Petro claimed every Colombian soldier now has an obligation to prioritize the national flag over any foreign power. He insisted the armed forces exist to defend popular sovereignty, not external interests. Petro rejected accusations of criminality, saying he is neither illegitimate nor a narcotics trafficker. He said his finances are transparent and that he owns little beyond his family home. Colombia's foreign minister, Rosa Villavicencio, has accused the United States of intervening in other nations in pursuit of natural resources. She said the ongoing conflict with Venezuela is driven purely by economic interests. Speaking at a press conference in Bogotá on Tuesday, Villavicencio voiced her opposition to the U.S. military intervention in Venezuela, which resulted in the detention of President Nicolás Maduro.
To state our position as clearly and forcefully as possible regarding the extremely serious events that took place on January 3rd of this year, as a result of an act of aggression by the United States against the Republic of Venezuela. In this regard, we have made various statements, issued communiques, reached out to different countries, to CELAC, and held several meetings with our consular and diplomatic services, as well as with the mission. We have called upon the tools and instruments of the international order, such as the United Nations and the OAS. In reality, this entire conflict is about economic interests, the need. Oil for a fossil fuel-based economy, particularly one as significant as that of the United States, inherently means that they consistently pursue these kinds of endeavors, and in strict accordance with the doctrine they have put forward, which asserts the primacy of their own particular economic interests as a country. As you well know, the United States, throughout its extensive history, has frequently intervened in different countries in a strategic search for the essential resources it needs for its robust economy. That is why the statements we have made as countries within the space of democracy always speak out and reject any external interest that violates the sovereignty of countries and their territories. And we will have that meeting with the accredited diplomatic service in the country to discuss this situation and also to convey our concerns and our demands for clear and forceful statements in defense of international law. I also spoke on Sunday with Representative McNamara to arrange this meeting that we are going to have today. And we insist that we use diplomatic channels, that we use the mechanisms of international law to talk, to reach agreements. It is necessary for the Trump administration to learn in more detail about everything we are doing in the fight against drugs. Well, the formal invitation that we have thoughtfully extended to the esteemed President of the United States is already widely known to him, and we are patiently awaiting a definitive response. Regarding the complex issue of the current government that regrettably remains in power in Venezuela, what we consistently say and firmly believe is that it is ultimately up to the Venezuelan people themselves to democratically decide their own sovereign future and destiny. And it is clear that given the presence of different forces, sensitivities, and opposition, it is necessary to have that dialogue so they can form a government that brings stability. And in that, we offer our capacity for mediation. We cannot in any way accept that in response to an event such as the elections, actions are taken in a manner that has violated international humanitarian law in order to carry out an aggression like the one that has occurred and remove this person, when there are mechanisms at the international level that should have been used, that should have been encouraged, and not an aggression like the one that has taken place. We have stated that we have not recognized these 2024 elections. We maintain the necessary relations as a state, and at this moment we advocate for a solution, but it must be a solution that comes from the Venezuelan people themselves, from their political and social organizations, and we will help to achieve it if they agree. All these threats, all these acts of aggression entail a violation of human rights. And there are also mechanisms within the United Nations framework to condemn and to prevent such actions. I also want to be very clear that as a government, we are fully aware that in this situation, what is at stake is world peace. And as we have said and always reaffirm, Latin America has been a land, thank you, of peace, and in the face of aggression against our country by the United States, we have also been clear, and it is established in international law, that the defense of our sovereignty. For that, we have a highly trained, highly prepared army, an army under the command of the head of state, President Gustavo Petro, who would have to defend our people if that situation were ever to arise, which we hope will not happen. We hope that is not the scenario that comes to pass.
In recent times, the United States has threatened 6 countries around the world. It has threatened Nigeria, it has threatened Iran, it has threatened Mexico, it has threatened Colombia, it has threatened Venezuela, and so on. And what we have basically done is to appeal to all multilateral bodies to engage in various bilateral dialogues. The minister herself has played a leading role in this. So we want to do everything possible to prevent this from happening. Our aim is for international law to prevail. Our aim is that solutions imposed by force are no longer the norm. There is, as the minister just said, a disastrous history of interventionism in other parts of the world. When you look, for example, at what happened in Iraq after the intervention, what happened in Afghanistan, and what is still happening in Libya, today, the Sahel region is paying the price, as is the Middle East, and we will have to see what effect what happened over the weekend will have on Venezuela, which in my view, in terms of international law, peace and human rights, will already be irreversible. So our repeated call is for countries to refrain from using force. This was not just an act of aggression against Venezuela. It's not about defending Maduro. It's not about defending a country. It's about defending an international system that we have been building since the end of World War II. That is, we have spent more than 80 years constructing the United Nations system, and Colombia has a history of defending that multilateralism which we try to bring to the Security Council. In that Security Council, by order of the President and by order of the Minister, we are going to insist on a resolution condemning the events of last weekend in Venezuela.
The Colombian leader's remarks came as the White House mocked Maduro publicly, saying the Venezuelan leader had his chance until he didn't. The statement echoed Trump's response to a similar dare issued by Maduro last year. In August, Maduro himself had openly challenged Trump, inviting him to Miraflores Palace and calling him a coward if he failed to appear.
Venga por mí.
Last night, on the order of the President of the United States,
Aquí lo esperan Miraflores.
and in support of a request from the Department of Justice,
No se tarde en llegar.
the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolás and Cecilia Maduro.
¡Cobarde!
Nicolás Maduro had his chance until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, you know, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. But don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well.